Dedicating this meeting to God. Thank you very much, Father, for a few minutes to pause, to reflect, to learn, to study, to fellowship. Thank you for your gifts of beauty, for your gifts of music, for your gifts of truth and goodness. Thank you for your gifts of one another, of fellowship, and most of all for your Son, who gives meaning and value to all the pursuits that we love and to the pain and the grief that we do not love, and works it all together for goodness, for your glory, and for our good in the long run. Help us to keep that in mind as we think and as we study and talk today. In your Son, Jesus' name I pray, and amen. Yesterday, I gave a long lecture describing and recommending songs from the Cantus Christi 2020, and I'm sure that everyone there didn't know most of the songs, and that's true of most of the music in the book, actually, and that was not an accident. We intended most of the songs to be unfamiliar, and that's because, like a lot of music books, it's an educational book. It's not only things that you know, but things that you'll like to learn. But there's more to it than that, and I wanted to give a bit of detail on the background of that decision. After all, there are a lot of things that we could sing as a congregation, that we could sing about, a lot of subjects, a lot of ideas that would edify us if we sang them. Some of the subjects we sing about a lot. We have very many hymns on praise to God, for instance, very many hymns on Christmas. There's some subjects that we don't know many songs about. Baptism and Pentecost, we just have a few. And there's some subjects we might not know any songs about that would be very much worth singing. Like, do you know any hymns on the theme of forgiving other people or of serving other people? And or it might be a song about praise to God, but it's praising Him for something that we don't often mention in our hymns, like deliverance from enemies. And that's not because there aren't any hymns on those subjects. There's plenty. We just don't know them. And the book of Psalms is like that. It's a closed book for most Christians in terms of singing. Most Christians don't sing most of them. So someone might ask, why would we sing songs on those subjects? Isn't it fine with the songs we already have? That's for another lecture. We're assuming that you want to sing a new song and that you want to learn and say more than you just said already. If you do, then of course you'll be singing new words. By the way, when I say new, I mean new to us. Many of them are quite old. And if I have new words, of course I want new music for them, right? And that'll mean learning the music until it's not new anymore, until I know it, till I own it, like I own Joy to the World, the tune. Like it or not, you will have that tune until you die, and probably longer than that. We learn a tune and we never forget it. We'll forget words, we don't forget tunes. Tunes dwell in me richly. But someone will say, why does it need to be new music? Why can't we sing the new words to music that we already know? And of course we can. Many hymns, new hymns, are put to recycled music. And especially when the new song is from the book of Psalms in the Bible. Most books of Psalms that were meant to be sung, they're called psalters, are full of recycled and reused music, and that works okay. So why should we ask anybody to learn new music if familiar music works? Well, I gave one reason yesterday, really pounded on it actually, because it's beautiful, and we like beauty. We like to learn, we like to enjoy more beauty, just like we enjoy learning more truth and more goodness. We also enjoy beautiful music more when we know it well. In fact, that's one of the characteristics of beautiful music. The more you hear it, the better you know it, the better you like it. The better quality music wears well. The lower quality music, you like it immediately and you get tired of it. It has a shelf life. But that's also for another lecture. But that should be enough reason for some of us. It's certainly enough reason for me. And if you're convinced by what I just said, you can ignore my next 10 minutes. Because but there are a lot of other reasons to learn new music for new words. For one thing, we have lots of great music available. Sticking with the music we already know, or playing in the puddle when the whole ocean is right around the corner. Also, you're more likely to remember the words if you know them to their own tune. We human beings have a limited capacity for connecting words with music. Singing more than 5 or 10 stanzas to a tune, or 5 or 10 sets of words to a tune, will weaken and break or break the other connections. And there's a practical reason too. I said this yesterday, if some psalm tunes are familiar and some are unfamiliar, you know what will happen. The ones with the unfamiliar tunes won't get sung as often, or maybe at all. Furthermore, I would say, learning new tunes is the easiest and I think the most enjoyable way to improve our musical experience. There are lots of other ways that we could do better. There's lots of ways to do congregational music better, to increase to improve and increase our quality and enjoyment. We could all learn to sing harmony. That would be richer. We could all learn to read music. That would be a dream come true. We could add more instruments. We could sing with better tone quality. I think most of us would enjoy just singing louder, frankly. We could improve the acoustics of the room. We could use more dynamic variety instead of just singing all the stanzas the same volume. The Welsh tend to do that in their hymnals. They'll actually have little dynamic markings beside different stanzas. It's not as easy to do in the way hymnals are printed in the States, but it could be done. Or we could sing all the Psalms. That would greatly improve our musical experience, wouldn't it? All good ideas, but I think the easiest and the quickest way to improve our musical experience is to own a beautiful new tune. Another reason is that it's long-term thinking. We can have musical wealth and richness the same way that we have any wealth. How do you get wealth? Long work in the same direction of your own and from those who've gone before you. It takes a while, but we have a while. We're not in a hurry. We're starting a movement. We're building a culture. It can be done. It has been done. Looking at cultures who have already done what we are trying to do, the Anabaptists in particular, but also the Mormons, the American Singing School movement, not to mention the entire nation of Wales. Did they say we're doing the best we can? No, they made the best they can better. And they did it gradually over years. And I could go on, but that seems like plenty of reasons, doesn't it? Well, I'll tell you, when I say this to most people, I get pushback, even from musicians who I would expect would want to teach and learn new music, even from Reformed Christians who believe in beauty, who believe that nothing is neutral, even post-millennial Christians who believe that we're preparing for the long-term future, that we're not in a hurry. We're not about to be raptured. We have time to do things really well. We have time to do things right. I get almost nothing but resistance. In fact, even the Cantus committee that I was working for wasn't convinced of the need for new music. They wouldn't have minded filling the book with familiar music and repeating tunes lots of times. So the point of view, as much sense as it makes to me, you should know it's rather controversial. Some of the objections I often hear, it's to learning new music. We'll use familiar music because it's easier. Yeah, people actually say that. It's easier? Well, of course it's easier. But what worth doing is easy. Since when is that a reason for doing anything? I just want to pull my hair out when people say that. You picked a familiar tune for this song because it was easy? I mean, I don't know what to say. Actually, I do know what to say. Learning new music is not that hard. I'm not talking about learning a cantata. This is a hymn tune. It's meant to be sung by untrained singers. It's meant to be sung and enjoyed by non-musicians. And yeah, learning new music is harder than not learning new music, obviously. But if you learn by listening, it's very easy. It's unbelievably easy. It takes almost no work at all. And the work that it does take is fun. And once you learn it, the work is over. It's free from then on. What can I say? Another objection I get to needing to use new music is that Christians for centuries have borrowed music for new words. Christians have done this for centuries. We're just doing what's always been done. And that's true, but so what? Maybe they were wrong. If that was a mistake, let's not repeat their mistake. Or it might have been the best they could do. Maybe they weren't lazy. Maybe they didn't have very many tunes available. And if that really was the best they could do, then they did right, and God bless them. It's not the best we can do. We can do better. And in everything else that we put our hands to do, we want to do better, don't we? We intend to do better. So let's do better with our music too. Seems like a pretty straightforward argument to me. And besides that, I would point out that Christians have not always borrowed music for new words. They have also written more music. We have literally, no exaggeration, tens of thousands of hymn tunes that we could sing that would be within our ability to learn. Probably hundreds of thousands. I remember reading somewhere, I think it was John Julian in the 1890s, estimating 1 million English hymn texts had been written and 500,000 tunes. I don't know how you could possibly count something like that, but that's what I remember. That was 100 years ago. So it's clearly not true that Christians have always been content reusing tunes. But let's just say there's 100,000 hymn tunes that an untrained singer could sing. Let's make it a round number. And maybe only 1 in 20 is worth learning, which is about right. There's a lot of boring tunes out there. That's still 5,000 tunes. And you might say, and I sometimes hear this, I couldn't possibly learn that many. My congregation couldn't learn that many. But, here's where God's design of our brain comes in. You can easily learn that many tunes. And if you listen to much music, you probably have. People are often surprised when they see the number of songs that they know. I have a playlist of 20,000 MP3s, and I complain I have nothing to listen to because I know it all. Yeah, I don't know that we have a limited capacity to learn new tunes. Not that I've ever heard. Look at that, it's still 5 after 9. That's neat. Okay, thank you. I think I'm going to have to skip one of these just for the sake of time. Now, of course, this is only one side of the story. There are arguments for using familiar tunes, but I'm not going to make those arguments because I'm not trying to give a balanced view of the subject. This debate has been going on for centuries. It's a debate between common tunes and proper tunes. And obviously, the common tunes side usually wins, which is why most hymn tunes have names, incidentally. We expect to use them for more than one lyric. But by and large, the argument between common tunes and proper tunes, that is to say, tunes you can use for anything and tunes that get assigned to a certain set of lyrics, is an argument between beauty, pursuing more beauty, and utility, what works, between richness and convenience. And on that debate, I've taken a side. The point of view of, the side rather, of convenience and utility doesn't need anyone to argue for him. That point of view is well defended by inertia. People will go on using familiar tunes, even if no one defends it because it's easy. So anyway, I could go on, and I have, but not now. Let's assume we're convinced. We have a text to sing, and we want to respect it with its own music. So I'm going to show you how I do this in some detail. Not because I expect any of you will ever do this, although I hope some of you do. Well, I would like to show some of the care and respect that goes into the songs that we sing. And first of all, I'd point out that it doesn't always work this way around. I don't always start with the words and look for a tune. Sometimes I find a tune that's so lovely, that enriches my life so much that I want to sing it. And I want to share it with other people. So I look for words that fit it. And if I can't find any, I might hire somebody to make some. Right now I have several people I can call on to make poems. And I'm always looking for more. If you know of anyone, ring me up. Most poets are busy doing other things like earning a living because I can't afford to pay them much, but I can pay something because I often get some really lovely words fit to tunes that have no other words, particularly Welsh tunes and Hungarian tunes use unusual meters. Everything in the Cantus by my brother Donald, for instance, all of Valerie Bost's psalms were commissioned for tunes that I had. And I have a lot more tunes that need lyrics. And I know where to find even more tunes. But by and large, I start with the words. So let's pick a psalm out of the hat, and with the help of my able assistant, I'll show you the process that I go through. Let's just say Psalm 52. I want to sing Psalm 52. First of all, let's read it. It's the first thing I do. Why do you boast in evil, O mighty man? The goodness of God endures continually. Your tongue devises destruction, like a sharp razor working deceitfully. You love evil more than good, lying rather than speaking righteousness. You love all devouring words, you deceitful tongue. God shall likewise destroy you forever. He'll take you away and pluck you out of your dwelling place, uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous also shall see and fear and shall laugh at him, saying, here's the man who didn't make God his strength, trusted in the abundance of his riches, strengthened himself in his wickedness. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the mercy of God. Sorry, I read that wrong. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever. I will praise you forever because you have done it. And in the presence of your saints, I will wait on your name, for it is good. Amen. So I look in my inventory of the settings I've already collected, and I see 5 settings. I don't know if we actually have time to play all these. I think we do. Just play the first stanza of each. Why boast in evil, mighty man? God's goodness is forever. Your tongue invents an evil plan, like razor scheming clever. You cherish evil more than good, and lies to saying things you should. Your words destroy you, liar. That's fine, but that's not quite what I'm looking for. Here I don't have a vocal. Anybody know this tune? But yeah, this is not what I'm looking for either. Let's skip to the next one. This is a tune I just commissioned from a lady out in Idaho. This is the Genevan tune. Why do you boast, O man so mighty, of all your wickedness? For all day long you plan to blight me, while feigning righteousness. That's not quite what I'm looking for. You'll Of course, I would say something. Let's just listen to them sing the first stanza. I think that's the last one. Is that right? Okay. That's it, yeah. And they're fine. I mean, obviously, I think they're fine. I made them. But they're not quite what I'm looking for in this case. So, for one reason or another. So what do? The first thing I do is I go to my metrical Psalter database. and I look for Psalm 52. Here I have typed the first stanza of all the metrical psalms I can find. Actually, almost all of them. I still have 5 or 6 collections I haven't entered. This is still a work in progress. But Psalm 52 is finished, because I finished it up just for this lecture. They are roughly in historical order, so the oldest ones are first. Psalm 52 doesn't actually have as many as some. It only has 31. Most of the psalms have more than 40. Notice I don't have the Scottish Psalter in there. I think the poetry is uniformly terrible. I think it makes a mockery of Scripture. The original Psalms were poetry of the highest order. Even non-Christian poets recognize that. A lot of metrical Psalms are some of the worst poetry ever made, so I don't use them. So these are the ones I think are worth singing. Well, now, which one should I use? Which one should I find a tune for? I've highlighted some that I know I want to use someday. I've already evaluated the poetry, and I found it above average. And you can see the ones that I've already finished. I've highlighted them. A lot of times I'll go through and look at the lyrics more closely, see if any of them suit what I'm looking for particularly well. Do I want, for instance, a longer sermonized psalm for this application, or a short summarized psalm? Do I want something that's very up-to-date lyrics, or will the Elizabethan English work? Also, I'll look for which emotions do I want to bring out, which psalm metrical setting brings out the emotions that I'm interested in for this. Most of these, though, have meters. You can see the meter listed there, CM, LM, and so forth, that I don't want to use for this class because they have too many tunes to choose from. Common meter, for instance, 8686. I have hundreds of tunes, great tunes in common meter and common meter double, but it would take all our time just to listen to them. So, by the way, anybody listening, if you want to make a metrical psalm, and I hope some of you do, please don't use common meter. We don't need any. Every single psalm already has at least 6 and probably more than 10 in common meter. So at least look at them all and decide that they're all bad and you can do better. Or better, be creative. Pick a meter that has the feel of the psalm. So I'm going to choose Roland Ward's setting. Yeah, that one. 10, 10, 11, 11, 4 stanzas. Even though I know Roland Ward's poems don't rhyme, which is a strike against them, this one was apparently good enough in other ways that I highlighted it to use. So I go to the Psalm 52 folder in the subfolder called Originals. Again, this folder happens to be full, but most of them aren't because this is an ongoing project. And I open Roland Ward's file so I can look at it while I'm listening to the tunes. And then the fun part, picking the right tunes. What am I listening for? What kind of tune am I looking for this set of words? What mood? Well, what's the mood of the song? What did you feel when we read it? I would say it's not particularly happy, but it's certainly not sad. Definitely confident from beginning to end. Mostly I would call it stern, I think, Psalm 52. Wouldn't you? Stern? A little angry, maybe, wouldn't be out of place. There's some mocking in verses 6 and 7. It's for sure sober. It's not a lighthearted psalm. And I think there's a bit of brag, actually. It starts out, Psalm 52 starts out scoffing at the wicked for bragging in their evil, and it ends up with the righteous man bragging in God. So that's what I would go with for this. Stern, brag, and a little angry. And what about the poetic setting? What feeling does Ward's poetry have? This is an unusual meter in that it has a lot of triplets. Technically, they're called dactyls. So instead of dun 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 dun, it's dun 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 dun. They're dactyls, three syllables per unit. They have a lot of light beats. It gives the poem sort of a light-footed feel. Maybe even slightly lighthearted. But like I say, it's not a lighthearted psalm. So that lightness has to be sarcastic, not carefree. Now, Roland Ward picked the tune Hanover, which is a lovely, royal, and majestic tune, not at all suitable for Psalm 52. As I find psalm poets often don't have a good sense of what tunes will work. So then it's just a matter of opening files and listening to them and singing the words with them and seeing how they match. And it turns out I haven't found a lot of tunes in this meter. The good ones are rather precious. So we go up to the tune bank and open. I'm going to start out with the tune at the top called Austria, Beethoven, which is to say Beethoven, that Beethoven, wrote the tune. Yep. Thanks for that. How does this fit to the words? Not very interesting. A little aimless. A little tedious. The tune's mostly in here on the strength of the composer's reputation. I'm not sure if I'll ever use it. Most great composers seldom write good hymn tunes. Let's skip the next one for the sake of time. We'll go to Laudate Dominum Gauntlet. Yeah. So how does this one match? Okay, those suspensions are good. Well, that's a good suspension. Oh, that one works well. Yeah, I would play that one again. See how they, not now, but I would play it again and see how the high notes of the tune emphasize the important words of the lyrics. That's a good fit. I would keep that one open. The next one, I might have to skip a few here for the sake of time. Sure, let's do Paderborn. This is a fun tune. Cheerful. Nice suspension there. Yeah. Yeah, I can see why I picked this one out. That would be a lot of fun to sing, much too cheerful for Psalm 52. I'm not sure if that tune would ever actually catch on because you'll see the first 5 notes are the same as O Worship the King, also the same as Hanover. So two other tunes start out with those same words. Let's look at Schurston. Okay, so this is in the minor. Pretty intense. Changes key in here. Changes key a couple times, actually. Well, that's full of surprises. So, well, the tune is well made. The melody wouldn't be very hard to learn, although the part singers would give me some dirty looks. But it has tension, it has a little anger, doesn't it? With all those twisted chord changes. I would keep that one open. Look at the huge jump in measure 13. Yeah, I would keep that one open. Let's skip down to St. Maron. That's it. Look at that bass line walking up there. Yeah, that's a little too Victorian even for me. All those chromatics. So there's a climax. Just when you think it's reached the climax, it has another one. That's pretty intense. Well, that's a very strong contender. My only concern as I looked at that one is that it doesn't emphasize any important syllables. It's like it matches the psalm, but it doesn't match the particular poem. But I would keep it open. Let's look at Stanley Beach. It's a newer tune. It's written a few years ago. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So if I had time, I would sing through the other stanzas. I would sing through each stanza of this when it looks like it's working, and I'll sing the next stanza. And yeah, this is obviously a lightning strike. It builds steadily to the middle. I'm sorry, Justin, I'm supposed to be looking at these, aren't I? So I talk into the microphone. build steadily to the middle through a series of smaller build-ups. And even after the highest notes, which are usually the climax of a hymn tune, it continues to build. The tension continues to build. So it's plenty of tension. It can carry the anger of Psalm 52 well. But it also can carry the assurance of the fourth stanza. But it's not exotic, like the tune with the key changes in it. It almost has a homespun sound to it. It sounds like a tune you just came up with on the spot. It's easy to like, easy to learn. And I really love that little dip in measure 9. Na, na, na. Sounds a little like a cry. Da, na, 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 na. So that one will almost certainly win the marbles. I would be content to stop there, but we have several more. So I don't know. Do we have time to do this? I don't think we do, actually. Go ahead. Yes. Mm-hmm.
How do you take into account for music the Selahs and the Psalter?
How do I take into account the Selahs in the Psalter? From my point of view, picking out the tune, I am taking, I'm doing whatever the poet decided. So if the poet decided to incorporate the Selah in some way, then I will. I'm working from the poetry. Now, if I'm working from the straight psalm, then I'll usually take account of it in one way or another, either by a pause or by an instrumental interlude or something of that nature. I could say more about that. Whatever the meaning and the import of the Selah is in the psalm, metrical poets need to know it and incorporate it, and I don't think they do in many cases. Well, in any case, to skip to the end of the story, Stanley Beach was so obviously the right tune, I didn't even check all the others again. I would sometimes just go back and check the ones that I had open. The tune Laudate Dominum by Gauntlet would have worked fine if I hadn't yet collected this one. And there might be a better tune out there somewhere that I haven't found yet. But that's the nature of the business. And lastly, another secret that I'll let out. The reason that I wasn't satisfied with all the settings I played at the beginning, and the reason that I didn't talk about Psalm 52 in the Cantus yesterday, is that I was thinking of this church, Christ Church Twin Cities, to give a psalm setting as a gift. Since I didn't know much about the church, didn't know anything about you, I needed to make sure it wasn't too complicated, but at the same time still interesting and memorable. So that would have been Bryn Calfaria, which some of you said you know. But since I also know that you put on this conference, I know you're open to learning new music. So Bryn Calfaria was out. So here's the whole song. And in the time we have left, let's learn it. I'll line out the first stanza like we did yesterday, and then we can sing all 4 stanzas, and then we'll be finished. I'm going to try to line out. I won't sing quite as well in the morning. Can you give me my opening chord? Thank you. This is a new song. You can't see it? Should we move the... Oh, we can't move that. Very cool. Should I get out of your way? All right. Oh, strong man, why boast in your evil schemes? Oh, strong man, why boast in your evil schemes? God's covenant love endures all day long. God's covenant love endures all day long. Your tongue is destructive, a razor-sharp blade. Your tongue is destructive, a razor-sharp blade. And you prefer evil and lies to the truth. And you prefer evil and lies to the truth. You guys are amazing. Let's sing the whole thing through, straight from top to bottom. A quick word with my able assistant.
O strong men, why boast in your evil schemes? God's covenant love and yours all day long. Your tongue is destructive, a razor sharp blade. Can you breathe for evil and life to the truth? O child of deceit, with love not conquers, till God will forever tear you right down. He'll scatter you, blocking you out of your tent. Pull out of the land of the living be sent. The righteous will see, they'll be filled with awe. They'll laugh at and say, here now is the one who made not his stronghold in God, but instead in riches confiding some strength from his schemes. A green olive tree in God's house I'm set. I trust in God's love, which never will fail. Forever I'll praise you for what you have done. I hope in your kindness with all of your saints.
Amen. You guys are amazing. If I didn't know better, I'd say you already learned that one. I had a few other comments, but they're not essential, so I am going to close there. Do we close in prayer? Why not? Praying is always a good idea. Thank you very much, Father, again for your gifts. Thank you that we have a warm place to meet and to learn, to fellowship. Please let anything that I've said today that is harmful and destructive fall to the ground and be useless and forgotten. Anything that's true and edifying would find its place in the mind and the life of the hearers, including myself. I pray this because of the grace and work of your Son, Jesus. Amen.